Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive shift happening in the solar world. For thousands of people who got in on solar early, a 20-year dream is about to end. But what if that ending is actually the beginning of something way, way bigger?
Okay, so let's get right into it. If you're one of those pioneers who put up a solar PV system, say 15 or 20 years ago, you've been on a pretty sweet ride, right? But that ride, that golden ticket, it has an expiration date. The big question is, what happens the day after that amazing contract of yours runs out?
Now, to really grasp the opportunity here, we first have to get our heads around the problem. The entire financial setup that made early solar such a no-brainer has been flipped completely upside down. The golden age of selling your power for a profit? Yeah, that's over.
The old model was just beautifully simple. The goal was guaranteed income. You'd install panels, sell every single kilowatt hour you made back to the grid for a high fixed price, and then just, watch the money roll in. But now, the goal is totally different. It is all about cost avoidance, using your own free power so you don't have to buy that super expensive electricity from the grid.
And the scale of this change is just wow. I mean, look at this. Early adopters were getting paid as much as 54 cents for every kilowatt hour they sent to the grid. Today, that's plummeted to around 6 cents. It's just not a profitable business anymore to simply export your power.
And it's not just about the income drying up. At the very same time, these powerful outside forces are making it way more expensive to just do nothing and rely on the grid. You're getting squeezed from both sides. The pressure is definitely on. And here is where the new math gets crystal clear. You get paid, about 6 cents for the power you sell, but you have to pay around 35 cents for the power you buy. That gap is enormous. Selling your power is a losing game, but every single kilowatt hour you don't have to buy from the grid is a huge, huge win. And this really highlights the other side of that squeeze. It's not just about electricity. Because of these escalating carbon taxes, fossil fuels are designed to get much, much more expensive. This isn't just a temporary price spike, it's a planned long-term increase on things like diesel fuel. So all of this pressure leads to a brand new, really powerful way of thinking, a new mantra. The goal is no longer to push your power out, but to capture it, store it, and use every last drop of that free energy you generate right where you are. In other words, every kilowatt hour belongs in your building.
Okay, enough about the problem. Let's start talking about the solution. Because this is where it gets exciting. This isn't just about swapping out some old equipment. It's about adopting a completely new mindset.
You have to stop thinking of your home or your business as just a passive building that consumes energy. You need to start seeing it as an active energy project. It's a living, dynamic system that you can keep optimizing. Maybe today it's about using more of your own power, but down the road you add a battery. And after that, maybe you start powering your car. It's an evolution. So this whole energy project idea is really built on 4 main pillars. First, you've got production. That's your solar panels. Then you need storage, a place to keep that energy for later. You have to understand your consumption. Where is all that energy actually going? And finally, the secret sauce, smart management to make it all work together seamlessly. Now, when we say storage, I know what you're thinking. Big, fancy batteries on the wall. And those are great. But many properties, especially farms or even just homes with certain types of heating, have a second, absolutely massive battery that they don't even think about, the hot water tank. It's not just holding water, it's a thermal battery. And this part is genuinely mind-blowing. A pretty standard 1,000-liter water tank can store about 50 kilowatt hours of energy. Let me say that again. That's 5 times the capacity of a typical 10 kilowatt-hour home battery. It's this gigantic hidden energy reservoir that's probably already sitting in your basement. So, how do you manage all of this? Your panels, your batteries, your consumption? Well, that's the job of an energy manager. Think of it like a little AI brain for your house. It learns your daily routines, it checks the 5-day weather forecast to see how much sun you're going to get, and then it makes all these smart decisions for you. Like, hey, it's going to be sunny, let's use that free power to heat up the water tank. Or even buying and storing grid power when the price actually goes negative. Okay, so this all sounds fantastic in theory, right? But what does it actually look like in practice? Let's check out a real-world case study of an agricultural business that completely transformed how it deals with energy. All right, let's just break down these numbers real quick. This farm system generates 60,000 kilowatt hours a year. Awesome. They use 18,000 of that immediately and another 17,000 that they'd stored in their batteries. But even after all that, look at the bottom line. They still have a massive surplus of 25,000 kilowatt hours. So the result of all this smart management is an absolutely staggering 83% energy self-sufficiency. That's incredible. But remember that 25,000 kilowatt-hour surplus? The old way of thinking would be to just dump it to the grid for pennies. The new mindset, though, sees that surplus for what it really is: fuel.
So that becomes the really exciting question, doesn't it? What would you do with that much free energy? This isn't some leftover scrap to be thrown away. It's the key to unlocking the next level of independence: mobility.
By channeling that surplus energy into charging up electric vehicles, this farm can now power an electric loader for almost 2,000 hours a year. That's the equivalent of over 6,000 liters of diesel they just don't have to buy anymore. And that's not all. On top of that, they can also power an electric SUV for 50,000 kilometers. That surplus just became free transportation.
So, this is obviously powerful stuff, but how can you apply this kind of thinking to your own situation, your own home or business? What's the real takeaway for getting started on your own energy project?
Well, the most important principle is what the Germans call a Maßanzug, which basically means a custom-tailored suit. There is no off-the-shelf kit that works for everyone. Your energy needs, the way your roof is shaped, your plans to buy an electric car in a few years, all of that is unique to you. Your energy solution has to be designed specifically for you, like a custom suit.
Getting started really boils down to 3 key steps. First, you have to decide what your goal is. Are you just going to keep feeding power into the grid, or are you shooting for maximum self-consumption? Second, you need a plan that has stages. Think about what you need right now, but also in 2 years and in 5 years. And third, and this is crucial, find an expert planner, not just an installer who knows how to put panels on a roof. And that brings us to what might be the single most important piece of advice from all this. The key is to mentally separate the planning from the actual work. You have to invest in a comprehensive plan first. Understand all your options. A cheap installation that's based on a bad plan is just a recipe for disaster. Getting the plan right is everything.
So in the end, it all really comes down to this one question. The technology is already here. It exists right now to turn this big challenge into an incredible opportunity. The only thing that really needs to change is how you think about your building. Is it just a passive place that uses energy, or is it an active, evolving energy project that puts you in complete control?